Hello, my name's Michael Conneely and I'm talking to you about my astrology readings and my astrology courses. And all my work offers the combination of Western astrology or Vedic astrology or crossover to both. And the particular theme I'm talking about is the strength of our planets and the Gokalong power zones. You see, Vedic astrology has several very sophisticated measures of the strength of our planets. And so, I can share that with you in a reading, or we can go into it in a great depth in a course. And often our planets manifest in very, very complicated ways. And it is so valuable to know what the statement, for example, of Vedic astrology is as to the strength of your planet and the way it will manifest. Because you can say, oh, I know I've got a very weak sun, and here it is manifesting again. I'm suffering lack of confidence. I'm ready to let everything flow through my fingers like water. An interesting case can be Mercury. You see, Mercury, as well as being a divine spark, a god, the planet energy Mercury within us says things about our conceptual thought and our communication. And very often Mercury can be in complicated signs or houses or aspects. For example, I have Mercury retrograde and conjunct Ketu, the south node of the moon. So it's quite difficult for me to manage, sort of like organising, like accounts and so forth, that level of disciplined, organised communication. But I've got 5 university degrees. I can perceive very far-ranging, interpenetrating energies and relationships. But it's so important to understand the statement of our Mercury. What sign is it in? What signs does it rule? And of course, when you have Mercury conjunct Ketu, at one level, that will trash the signs that Mercury rules. And we have to find the great spiritual gift and message of that, and often it's not easy. And I was talking about planetary strength. And there are different measures of wonderful sophistication in Vedic astrology. For example, well, I won't go into complications, but it's, a planet will gain strength if it's in like a Kendra house, an angular house. A planet will gain dignity, another form of strength, if it's in the sign of a friend, and will have less dignity if it's in the sign of an enemy. And where that planet is in the divisional charts will also need to be considered. Divisional charts are derived from the birth chart, and they focus on depth penetrating analysis of a particular area of our destiny in life. And so, for example, we could have a planet that's very strong in our past life but very weak in this life, and our soul chose that so that we could grow. There are well-established methods and tables which I send you if you're studying a course, so it makes it simple to see the statement. But as I said, I personally offer cross-referring to Western astrology if you wish, and I can give you that information anyway if you don't want to go into it. And so, like, fascinating cases arise where a planet is seen as strong in the sense that it's in the first house in Vedic astrology, but because Vedic astrology has the ascendant often in the middle of a house, not as the start of a house, then that planet might actually be in the 12th house in Western astrology. And what a gift this perception is. You see, a typical case is well, my partner Maggie has like a deeply fallen sun in Libra, and yet it's in the first house in Vedic astrology. And so in fact, well, what does that mean? Well, it means that father gave difficult messages, and so on the one hand the person can feel lack of confidence, but on the other hand overcompensate and overassert. And yet her sun, although in the first in Vedic astrology, is in the 12th in Western astrology. Well, what does that mean? Well, clearly one thing is loss through and around father. But also the other meanings of 12th house come in. You know, for example, affinity with foreign parts, psychism, and of course the negative ones are sort of chaos, disorganization, can be alcohol, denial, illusion. You know, those are the theoretical other options in the 12th house. I was recently dealing with a case of a woman who had a very complicated and shamanic Mercury, sort of like a Mercury in the 8th house type of energy in Vedic astrology, in the first house in Western astrology, but in the 12th house in the first house in Vedic astrology, but in the 12th house in Western astrology. And so Mercury, the complexity of that Mercury could be a loss. And yet, Western astrology depicted it as very powerful because it's actually in the Gokulam power zones. And the Gokulams did some research and they found that planets in certain degrees above a chart angle actually performed very powerfully. And I think that's because the person feels the potential loss. Oh, I've got a 12th house planet. You know, I'm finding this difficult. I could lose the qualities of this planet. My communication could be all over the place. You know, I might find it very difficult to focus. And so they overcompensate, and that overcompensation brings a skewed strength. So I'm just trying to explain to you how valuable the insight of my courses and my readings can be. So do look at my astrology courses. There's my Vedic astrology course, www.mastervedicastrology.com. There's my Western astrology course, www.enlightenedastrologycourse.com. Or there's my readings website, starwheelastrology.com. And I've got focused mini courses. So the point is, you can take this quite exalted knowledge at a simple level and build to an advanced level. And the reason is because I try to be really caring. I do share very, very good resources. You get all the charts you need. You see, I myself, the first 2 degrees I did were at Oxford, where there's the Oxford tutorial system. And in my day, anyway, at the end of the 60s, you got personal attention from your tutor. And the whole aim was to bring out that best spark, to bring out the very best in you. And that's what I try and do in my courses and my readings. So, you know, do enroll on one of my courses. You know, they're fully worldwide, all the resources are sent worldwide, there's videos you get. You can correspond to me completely personally. And so we build from insight to insight, and the development people make is fantastic. Thank you.